been waiting for. Feel the right in the world of time for sure. Na 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 na. Got to get that feeling.
Hello, friends. Hello, loves. It's me, Sunshine. I have an amazing guest tonight, Hardy Patel, the co-owner of The Float. He has an amazing story, an amazing journey, and he'd like to share it with us. Yay! Here he is. Hey, Hardy.
Hello.
Yeah, we have someone
Hello,
already. Hey,
Sunshine.
Jen. How are you? So, Hardy, my love, how is life?
Life is beautiful in that it's never a boring journey for me.
Yes.
It's always exciting no matter which way it goes,
It's so true. It's so true.
Through all the twists and turns.
Yes, and you've had some twists and turns.
Through all the
Tell us
some
what
beautiful twists and turns, even the times that even the times that are a little difficult are like pretty amazing because they always lead to something great.
That's true.
I mean, I've been on this journey for about 8 years, where 8 years of transformation and really fast transformation. And I think I shared a little bit with you before, but
yeah, I want you to.
Basically, it's so 8 years ago, I was a completely different person. You would not even recognize me. I know I showed you my picture of my license before, and you saw that, and I was completely different. I was to kind of describe who I was a nightclub promoter. So I was throwing parties in Manhattan, hey Michael, and Long Island. So I was doing this 4 times a week for 15 years. So I was pretty much partying all the time. It was my favorite thing to do for 15 years. And
wow.
I mean, I was at a point where I was blacking out off alcohol. Nobody could outlast me. It was like I was the last man standing all the time. Barely standing, barely remembering, doing all types of crazy things, being up to 8 a.m, going to sleep at 3. I was probably 50 pounds heavier than I was right now. I was watching so much television. I was watching 20 hours to 30 hours of television a week. Wow. I was eating everything that is not good for you. You take fast food, extra cheese on everything, no vegetables on anything, eating at 2 a.m, right before I slept sometimes, and drinking lots of beer, So I was at a point where my mind was racing 1,000 miles an hour, meaning I'd ask you a question, you would answer me, and I'm already like somewhere else. Like my mind was already thinking about something totally different. I was not even in the same space as you there, and you kind of would look at me like, okay, Hardy, I just and answering your question, and you're already like on another topic or somewhere else. So it got really it got really bad to a point. I probably hit my bottom. Like that was like 8 years ago. And then some magical, tool came my way, and that was the float tank, the flotation therapy, sensory deprivation, and I had no idea what it was when it came to me. And in the form, the way it came to me was pretty magical too. It was my childhood friends since my first friend here since fourth grade. He like came by. He had texted me. He's like, "You ever heard of flotation therapy?" And I was like, "No, what is that?" And he was just like, "Just look it up," you know. And I kind of looked it up a little bit then, and I didn't really get into it. I was just kind of looking it up. Like it tweaked my interest because something different. And I was like, all right, you know. Um, he left a week later. He left a gift card underneath my door at my house, and he is me a gift ever in my life. This guy never purchased anything for me, and he left a gift card underneath my door. It turned out he had just come out of the float, and I guess he felt the need to buy it. And my birthday was in a month, so he was like, "Happy early birthday!" And I told you, he never gave me a gift in all the years that I knew him, 30 years or 28 years, whatever it was. And so now I'm like, I have this thing. So now I'm like, all right, I got to go. And I kept trying to figure out, why did he give me this gift? Like, I was like contemplating it. And I, even after, like, and I remember our last conversation we had a month prior to him giving me this gift. He was talking to me, and I was being me, where I was like kind of all over the place, scatterbrained. I could, not focused. And I guess he felt disrespected or hurt because he was trying to tell me something important. And I was just, like talking about something else and not even focused on what he was saying. And he felt really hurt, and he just kind of got upset, and he just said straight up, like, "Hey, you're not listening to me. You're not hearing me. And it really hurts me. Like, you're just," and I'm, and I'm just like, and I said something because I didn't know how to react, was, "Maybe you're just not interesting, or maybe I don't care to listen to you," or something like that. It wasn't right, but it was just the way my mind worked. It was just reactive,
Right.
So I went into my first float, and I guess my friend Anthony, that was my childhood friend, he was a second client ever for this place, which is called the Float Place. Tom had opened one up in his basement. He had bought a float tank, and he's my business partner. Now, he had bought a float tank in his basement, and he just installed it and called it the Float Place. And, he opened up for business. He was the first one in Long Island. So I had a gift card to it. And this is the crazy part. The first place in Long Island, you know where it was? It was about 5 minutes from my house. It was in Farmingville, and I'm in Holbrook, which is in this part of Farmingville is near Portion Road. He was on, Halleck at the time. And it was literally 5 minutes from my house. And all of Long Island, what are the chances of that, right? So imagine me going to this place, not sure what this is. And I go in this guy's basement. He lives upstairs. Yeah. And he gives me this orientation, explaining to me all the instructions. My mind was racing, I guess, the whole time. So he had to repeat it because I was like, I forgot I wasn't paying attention. So he shared everything with me. And he had, then what we had is a blue tank. It was 8 foot by 4 foot. It's not what we have in our spaces now. We still have it, but all the other places, like in we have, 4 float rooms, which are big. You could stand up in, And I went in this small tank. It was a capsule for the first time. And I found myself lying in there 30 minutes into it, in the dark, naked, in this guy's basement, in salt water. And I'm just like, what the hell am I doing in here? My mind was racing. It was 30 minutes in. I'm like, I need to get out of here. Like, this is one of the craziest things I've ever done. And I sat up, and I was, contemplating it. And Sunshine, like, that was probably one of the most important moments and decision points. One of the first of many that really paved the way for this path of my journey. I sat there, almost got out, and then there was this inner feeling or voice that said, like, or maybe it was my ego saying, "You can't get out. Your best friend got you this gift card. Don't be a quitter. Just stick it out." He did it, and there must have made a difference for him to buy you a gift. So I I stuck it out, and back then we were only doing 1 hour in the tank. Um, and I felt nothing, I was just there. I got out, started taking a shower, and I just sat there. I'm like, you know what? But I did feel something because I said, you know what? I, I'll come back another time and try it again, So there was something there, but I'm taking a shower, not really feeling much, I'm just like, all right, this didn't work for me,
Right.
I guess, I did wrong. So I come out of the room, and they had this post float area where he had a couch, and he was sitting there waiting for me. He's like, would you like some tea? I said, sure, I'll have some tea. And he's like, have a seat. So I sat down. He had some tea for me. Right then, 2 minutes later, I realized this is not the normal me. I'm sitting down having a cup of tea, and I never had tea in my life. And I was just sitting there so relaxed, sat in that couch. I just sunk into that couch. I felt so comfortable and so at ease. This feeling of not wanting to rush, or like go anywhere. It was just like, I'm okay where I'm at. Not feeling
Yeah.
this urgency that I guess I always felt. And me and him had a conversation for the next 2 hours.
Wow.
And when back then, when I have a conversation with someone, it was all 98% me, and it was in all different directions. Here we had a clear conversation where it was only 70% me and 30% him. So I knew something was going on, and there was something different. And the biggest telltale sign was when I left. When I left there, I called my girlfriend at the time, and I called her, and right before the floating, an hour before, we had like broken up or something, like, we got in a big argument, and she thought we were done, and I went in the float. I came out after. I called her up after an hour, and I'm just like, and I just apologized to her. I said, I'm really sorry that if whatever we were arguing with wasn't important, but for me to make you feel like this while I was away in the tank for 2 hours or 3 hours and speaking to Tom, you must have felt horrible, and I am apologizing for that. And I don't think it was something so minor that we argued about, and it wasn't worth it, so that was like a big deal for me because I didn't do that back then, like I wasn't able to see and how much I hurt her in that moment because my mind was racing so fast that you don't take the time to really see what's coming up, and how you're reacting. So after that, I felt different for a week. So I floated again 2-3 weeks later. Then I floated a third and fourth time in the next month and a half. So I floated 4 times in 3 months. And I don't know what it was doing because I couldn't comprehend it then. A year later, I figured out what the float was doing, but I was just feeling good. I was, one day I was driving on the LIE. I'm driving the car. I'm just going, all right, I'm driving. And I started looking at the sky, and I'm like, look at the sky. It's so beautiful. Oh my God, look at the clouds. And I never did that, and I was so like, I can't believe I've never seen the beauty in the sky. Like, how come I'm not noticing this? I'm looking around like, does everybody else see this? And I remember like I kept doing that for like a straight week. Like I'd be driving and going like this, making sure I'm not getting an accident, but looking up, and I'm like, oh my God, it's so beautiful, and it was just amazing. And I didn't understand it. I just knew something was happening, and I had to continue with it. And then the fourth float session I had was truly amazing. Like I had this fourth float, and I'll share this one because it was the deep float. This is what turned me into a floater and a like hardcore, like I'm in there all the way now. I went into the float tank, I'm floating in, and about 30 minutes in, I don't know, I just went somewhere. First, I started off with the universe. I was, I felt like I was a human to what the sun was. I was comparing myself to the sun, and it was the same thing as a cell it was into my body. It was like the craziest thing. But then all of a sudden, I zooted out of that experience, and then I went into like this experience of love, where I saw myself. First, it started with my dad. someone I really loved, but I saw him looking at me with his highest love of this moment of him seeing me when I was at the place that he always wanted me to be at. Like I saw the respect that I always wanted to earn from my dad. I saw him looking at me
Mhm.
that way. I saw the love, like, the way he wanted to love me. Like
Right.
what a perfect son was. And remember, at that time I was like really not a good son. I was irresponsible. I was an alcoholic. I was a party animal. I was unhealthy. I was, at the lowest point in my life, and they were there, and I was a disappointment to them. But so I saw my dad looking at me with everything I wanted from my dad, that love that I coveted in my whole life. And he was just there in that space. And I felt that love. I felt it. It enveloped me, and I like wrapped myself up in it in the float tank. And it was one of the most profound moments of my life in that space of love, up to that point.
Yeah.
Then I saw my mom.
Mm.
And Sunshine, my mom, she's totally different how she loves me, right? So I saw how she viewed me as the son that she always wanted, the love that she wanted from me, and how it was so different than my dad. But I saw that, and I was that son for her. I was there, and I felt that love that she had for me at that moment. And I felt the how I felt at that moment, and seeing that in her. I felt that in the tank. And I went through my sister, my brother-in-law, like just all these people in my life. I went through like 100 people after that, and I was in such a state of love. And when I came out of that float tank, my heart was so open. I was on top of the world. And it was the first time I might have experienced love that deeply.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I found loving myself and seeing myself as this version of me, and I saw that was possible. And I became that person from that moment on. I
Yeah.
came out of that flow, and it's funny. I'm speaking about it now, Sunshine, and it's like, wow. From that moment on, I became that person I saw in the tank. I
Yeah.
connected to my heart, and I became that version of myself. And I started that day, and it was like I saw a future version of myself, but it was really my true version, and I became that person that moment. And
Mm.
after that, I came out of the tank. I started floating every week. Within another, 2 float sessions, out of nowhere, I decided to quit eating meat, stop watching TV, and stop drinking for 30 days. Like 3 things that I would have never thought were possible in my lifetime.
Right.
And I decided to do all 3. I even shared with my sister, and she was just like, "Are you sure you're going to do all 3?" Like, and I've made empty promises. I'm going to quit this. I'm going to quit that. I'm going to start changing my life. And none of it ever happened,
Yeah.
And I, you know, I said there, my sister's like, "You sure? Why don't you just do one thing?" And I was like, "No, I'm going to do all." And they're like, "Okay," expecting me to, stop after do it for a day or 2 and then stop. I was really good at doing that, you know, but I went out of those 30 days. I was on day 15, and I remember reflecting, like astonished. I was eating vegetables, not watching TV, and I did 20 hours of television a week,
Yeah.
and not eating Taco Bell and all this pizza and stuff. And I was eating vegetables and not eating meat. That was like the big thing. I ate meat all the time. I was just eating lots of vegetables, and the drinking. I was still throwing parties, so I had to go to these events. I found
Right.
myself leaving because I couldn't stand being there. I didn't want to be tempted, so I'd show up for the first hour and sneak out.
Mm-hmm.
So on day 15 of the 30 days, it like hit me. I'm like, oh my God, I'm really doing this. And then a thought came up, and like, if I could do this, I could do anything I put my mind to it. And after that, the next 15 days were a breeze, And when I was done, I did go watch TV again, but I made myself a promise I would only watch documentaries, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, then I went to drink at one event, and I had a horrible night. And I started watching these documentaries over the next 3 weeks. And remember, I'm floating every week while I'm doing this. So I watched this
Right.
documentary. You ever heard of Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So I watched that documentary, and I'm watching it, and I was just like, after watching it, I was so motivated. If anybody wants to go on a juice cleanse and they're really like really want to change, like watch that movie, a documentary, the day or two before you're going to start. It will.
I watched a documentary. I forget the name of it. The Game Changer was amazing. I think you froze, my love. Ah. Yeah, The Game Changer was what I saw. Oh, Hardy, are you still there? Oh, he logged off. Okay, so here he is back again.
How did that happen?
Ah,
Hey,
technology. It was all that electricity. Yes, it's all good.
oh my God,
You're back.
where
You're
was
back.
I?
So we heard
Oh,
the documentary. I mentioned the Game Changer
the
documentary
Game
that
Changer.
I
Yeah,
loved. Did you see that one too?
I seen that at some point, not in that phase of it.
Okay.
I think in the last 2-3 years, because that was 8 years ago. Game Changer was out then, right?
Yeah.
So I got up to that, the fat sickness. So I watched the documentary, right? So, I was still very spontaneous of like, now, I had my ego, like my chest high, like, yes, I could do anything. I just, I'm floating in this tank, every week it's giving me superpowers. I quit drinking, eating meat, and watch television 30 days. I could do anything. So I watched this documentary and I'm like, I'm going to do a juice cleanse.
Yeah.
I just like, so I buy the juicer, I buy the guy's book, and I go to Whole Foods. I've never went grocery shopping like this, and I spent like $150 on, groceries. I don't even know what I was getting. I was just ordering stuff on this guy's book, and I got everything set. The book said to eat some salads and juices. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to do 3 days, or maybe I'm going to do a 5-day juice cleanse. And I started. And Sunshine, you know how long I did?
30 days.
No, that was later. I think I told you that. I ended up doing 30 days. But I ended up that time, my first time, I kept going after the 5 days, because what happens when you do a juice cleanse, you're good. The hardest days are 3, 4, and 5. Like at some point, like you're going through your detox and you're feeling
Yeah.
nauseous, you're feeling, you're having a hard time. But once you get to the other side of it, it's amazing. So it's like, why would you stop if that's when you're getting the most
Right.
benefits and you feel the best? So it's like watching black and white TV, and all of a sudden one day you wake up and it's like high definition 3D color, and
Right.
you're just like, you feel so amazing and clear. So I went for 18 days straight. I lost like 18 pounds in those 18 days.
Wow.
I saw my brother-in-law after I hadn't seen him in 4 weeks since I started or something. And he just looked at me and he's like, you look like you're 10 years younger. And I was like, yeah, the skin glows, like you have clear, smooth skin. You're awake, you're clear, your eyes are like wide open. And I just felt amazing. So, and I'm floating, and, after that, everything was just changing my life, like quitting alcohol completely, just getting into a better diet, lots of fasting that time. I kept going to juice cleanses and stuff. And, I did some deep medicine work. I went to some deep retreats. I went into fasting in the mountains where living off no food, no water for some days.
That's cool. Where was that? Uh-oh, he's frozen again.
So,
Oh, there you go.
yeah, I can.
You're good. Where was it?
So what, the place I went to?
Yeah.
So I went like a year later, I still think I'm like Superman. I'm floating every week. Life is changing very fast for me. I am the happiest I've ever been and making no money, sunshine. Like I was working minimum wage. I had quit the club business. I owned a Subway with my family, so I was just working there, but paying myself minimum wage. And I was just living life that way, and I didn't care. I just love floating so much. And during the beginning of my floats in the tank, I manifested that Tom, after I got out of the tank, we had a conversation prior, would be interested in us like working together. And he brought it up after I got out of the tank. I imagined it in the tank after like one of my floats, and we spoke about it. And then he was like, yeah, I have 3 other people interested. So the next time I floated, he was going to make a decision. So in the float tank, I said, okay, it's going to be us two, and we're going to create the float place and bring it out of his basement and open up a store. And that's what, happened. I came out and he was like, yeah. So we spoke, and he's like, yeah. So yeah, I decided I'm going to go with you, because your passion behind the float,
Right.
So,
Yeah.
we went, and it took us like a year and a half to open. And that was another amazing story. I could just keep going, but otherwise we'll never leave 8 years ago if I keep continuing what happened then,
Yeah.
But the
Yeah.
synchronicities were just amazing. And, this whole journey, which is what started it, was floating for me. I started with the float tank 8 years ago. Now there's 2 centers, and all of it just started unfolding. And so many people had such wild stories and changes there. And everybody does it for a different reason. And that's why I wanted to put you in the tank the last 2 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like you floated 2 weeks ago, or like a week and a half ago, and then you floated yesterday.
Yeah.
And what are your thoughts?
I love it. It's such a beautiful experience. I got lots of messages and images because I'm a very visual person. So I got a lot of images both times, and then I was just completely relaxed. And I actually fell asleep both times, like the last hour. But then when I got up, it's just such like you were in a totally different, dimension. I couldn't even drive. I told you I got in my car. I was like, whoa, I probably shouldn't be driving right now. So I sat and waited. It's amazing. Yeah, I love it.
That's why we created that post float room that was in Tom's basement. So after the float,
Yeah.
the whole key is we try to get everybody not to go on their phones. Because what's happening in the float, right, is there's 10 inches of water, 1,000 pounds of Epsom salt. So you float. So that's why it's called a float tank.
Right.
But sensory deprivation, which sounds like torture, but it's actually the opposite. You're taking away all your senses. So you're giving your senses and your mind and everything a break. So you have zero gravity environment, and there's no lights, which there's a light switch for if you guys are afraid that you can take your time turning off whenever you want. There's no sound because we give you earplugs, and the room is as soundproof as we can make it. And the water temperature is 94 degrees. So it's the same as your outside skin temperature. So when you're floating, what happens is you're alone with yourself. And depending on the person, like depending where your mind's at, you could be there in your, going through your thoughts for the first 15 minutes, or it could be the first 40 minutes, depending if it's your first time. And it feels so long in the beginning, but then the second half of it feels like seconds.
Yeah.
It's like when you go and knock out and take a nap, and all of a sudden hours have passed by and you're like, oh my God, what happened? But when you're turning off your senses, it's like, if we left our computer on every single day, letting programs run in the background and files and websites and, browsers, and some of us do that, right? And it's like crazy. Sometimes the computer freezes, sometimes there's error messages. Well, you need to turn off the computer, not put it on hibernate, and completely shut it down and reboot it. Mm-hmm. And that's what I felt like it did for me. I just wasn't aware of it.
Right.
I needed to do it, and I consistently started doing it. I didn't know what it did until like a year later, looking back. Now, I was telling you this before, like it slowed my mind down. That's what I needed. And when my mind slowed down and I was, having so many thoughts per minute, I was probably I'm exaggerating here, but I was probably having 1,000 thoughts a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And the float tank gets you to a point of 0 while you're in there. And then when you come out, you go into that post float room and you might have like 50 thoughts, depending on the person. And then maybe by the next day you have 500, then maybe I got back to 950 by next week or 2 weeks from then. But then I kept floating. So my baseline started slowing down. And I would like to explain to everybody is that the analogy I like giving it is when you're driving and speeding on a highway. Imagine you had, I could say a Corvette, but I'm going to say an electric car. Imagine you had a Tesla, and you're driving 150 miles an hour. You got a fast Tesla, and it goes really quick. And that's how you drove your whole life. Like you didn't even slow down. You're on the highway and you're just going 150 miles an hour. When you're driving that fast, you have no time to look to the right, to the left. You're looking straight ahead. You're worried about hitting a car. You're gonna be making sure there's no police. So that's all your focus is. That's all you see.
Yeah.
Now, if one day after like 8 years or 20 years of your life, you decide I'm just gonna go 10 miles an hour, or you hit rush hour traffic for the first time ever, everything just changes. You're going so slow. You're gonna see the car next to you. You're gonna see a kid who's making a face at you. You're gonna see that person over there picking his nose. You're gonna see the stores. You're gonna see the houses, the buildings, the trees, the sky. You're gonna see things that you've never noticed, right? When you slow down. And that's what it was. I slowed down. I had less thoughts, so I was able to see things differently, and I started getting clarity. And then the important stuff, the things I already knew but I couldn't do, were like, I knew to quit drinking. I knew it wasn't good for me. Why did I have to excessively drink? Why did I keep doing it? I knew not to eat unhealthy. Like, I got to a point where, the heartburn, all this stuff was happening. I knew it wasn't good for me. I wanted to be a better son to my parents, a better brother to my sister, and all these things. And I knew this and I knew what to do, but I couldn't do it because I didn't have that clarity. And as soon as I had that thought, knowing I had 20 other thoughts behind it that just made me forget about it. So it was like I couldn't slow. So I needed to slow down and see that it was a possibility that I could do that. When sometimes a lot of people, they get stuck in these cycles. A lot of us do, we all do. And it feels like you're a hamster in a hamster wheel. You just keep going and it starts speeding up. And then you don't even realize you're in this race or this thing that keeps going in circles. You've got your job, you got to pay bills, you eat bad food, you go to the gym, you're trying to burn it off. You're just a constant cycle. And then 5 years have passed by and you have no idea how to get out of it. It's not good, but you don't know what else to do. And you just go right back to work. You don't make a change in your life. And the only way you're going to make a change in your life is if you jump off that hamster wheel. You just jump off.
Yeah.
And then when you jump off and you get back on, you're going to walk slowly now and you're able to see everything. Like you're able to look to the left, the right. You could go backwards on the hamster wheel and you're able to see everything very differently. And in that space, before it speeds up, you have the opportunity to create a change in your life.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like what the flow place did. I call it the gateway for spirituality for me. Because, like every single person that you've met and I've met, they have their story. And it usually they hit their bottom, and then they come out and it's some different modality or something that changed them, or where their story is completely different than, and we all interweave with similar parts of the story, but we have these epic downfalls in life, like, that could be made into movies, like Marvel movies, like we're superheroes, but we had to fall on our face, like, in the worst ways or craziest way possible. But I would love everybody to hear, like, hey, if you're going through a rough time, understand that maybe this is your growth story, so that you're supposed to overcome, so that you can step into your power and become the hero you need to be, because that's what you're here to do. You're here to live your purpose. And sometimes we have to get smacked, punched, uppercut, thrown around, pistol whipped, smacked around a bunch of times. We listen and hear what we're here to do,
Yeah. So much love. Yeah. And you find out who you are as a person, and you find love for yourself, not only, to find the love from your parents and your sister, you know, your family. It's the love for yourself.
Yeah, it was that love story was that first few years, Sunshine, was so beautiful. Like after that float that I came out with my heart open, I had these moments and I like would be walking the earth and it was just like I would breathe in and I just was that's all I need. The air felt like love coming through me. You know, like
Yeah.
and I remember those the moments of like I'm so present, like the first 2-3 years of that journey. I was like it didn't matter what I did. I didn't care about money. All I cared about was being in this state and like how can others feel this? And all I wanted to do was help people. You know,
Yeah.
all my addictions. What people don't realize, like I tell people addictions are a great thing. You know, like and it sounds crazy, like, oh, you're addicted to this. I'm like, that's amazing. And they're like, what do you mean? And I go, I look at everything as energy, you know, like energy cannot be created nor destroyed, but it can be transmuted. So if we look at addiction as an intense energy, you know, just very intense towards one direction of something, you could be transmuted into something else. So if you're able to move that addiction over and move it into something else, like a lot of people would quit cigarettes, smoking, and then they would start eating chocolate. You know, they would
Right.
get addicted to sugar. You would always hear about that. Yeah, now I started eating more or this or that. But it's because it creates a space and you have to move that energy over. But if you know this and you go, hey, what are you going to move it over to? And you know what you really would like it move it over to, you just move it over in that direction. So for me, I didn't know I was doing this, but I started caring about just giving to everyone. It was like I would look on Facebook and look for like, how could I message someone and just like, what can I serve them? If someone was writing a status back then about they were unhappy or something, I would just message them like, hey, and I didn't need money. It was like, can I talk to you? And I buy people gifts that were meaningful, like because somebody was going through a rough time. I didn't care. I was just like, my mission, it was like a game was, how can I make this person more happier than they are, like out of this emotion that they're in? It was like a game that first year. And, you know, and it was powerful when you were able to move your addiction in that direction, because the universe, like when you start serving others and it just starts feeding you and fueling you. You know, sometimes, you know, like I just read that message of like, we want to open our hearts, you know, how do we try to open our hearts? It's not, you know, it's not easy, but it's not hard, you
Right.
know. And if we use our mind, that the thing is when we're using our mind to open our hearts, it's like it's kind of there's a disconnect there, right?
Right.
It's like
Yeah.
we got to use our hearts, like to live from our heart. We use our minds, and we're using our mind. For me, you know, was just sitting there and just giving, you know, and I haven't done it as much. I do it in different ways now, but it was like, imagine that we're all here to be of service to each other. We were all put on this earth and we don't remember to serve each other. We all have a purpose. You might not know what it is, but when you'll know when you're feeling like you're just in love with what you do every moment. You'll feel like you're floating on a cloud. But in the meantime, we're all here to serve each other, and you can start working towards that. How do you do that? Just start giving with nothing in return. Not even like you don't even need that like thank you. Like, you know, you should be like, your mind shouldn't even go there and be, oh, that person didn't even thank me. It should be like, just start giving, but giving people in need. And it doesn't mean spend all your money. Like maybe someone's, you know, walking down the street and they needed a hug and you felt it,
Yeah.
you know, and then just give them a hug, you know, or, you know, someone looks down, you know, the easiest thing you could do in the world is compliment someone, and it'll change the direction of where their thought process is. So like I'm in my head, if you're in your head walking down the street and you're breaking up in a relationship and all you're thinking about is this fight in your mind, and it circles in there for hours and it just affects you because it was such a big fight, then someone texts you, that person texts you again, you're like angry. I would just go up to that person and I see them in their head and I just go, oh my God, where did you get that beautiful shirt? Compliment that. It's easy to, if you look at someone, you could always find something to compliment them on something.
Yes.
What beautiful hair you have, like, you know, I love your skin, like whatever, you know. And what happens to that person, you just help them by getting them out of their train of thought. And now they're looking, instead they're going, oh yeah, I got this shirt at this store. It was just a gift. You really like it? But yeah, it's beautiful on you. It's amazing. And then all of a sudden they smile. And then all of a sudden we just change their energy, just little things like that. And it becomes a game, and your heart will open, because then you're going to start doing things even more. The universe provides when you're open to it. It's like, hey, I want to be of service to other human beings and other animals and just plants and whatever not. You'll get these opportunities and magic happens, because sometimes it's like the person on your Facebook that you like didn't even hardly know, and they're calling out for help in a way, and they're like, I'm having a tough time, and then you find out all they needed was a ride. And you go and you message and be like, hey, I see that you look like and we know we haven't even spoke. I don't even know how I know you, but I would be willing to give you a ride and help you out. And that random act of kindness when the person least expects it, I guarantee you, when you go and do it, you're going to feel so amazing afterwards. And that's the only selfish part about it, is to take that and enjoy that. And if you continue to do moments like that, your heart will open. There's you can't, because that's our true nature. This is what we were put on this earth to do. It's like someone telling me that, I
started when I hit my rock bottom and started going up. I was volunteering at soup kitchens, and even just going to a lake with garbage bags and cleaning up the lake, and not even, letting everybody know I did that. I did it for me. I did it for the earth. I did it out of love, just little things like that you can do to show. But I do the same thing. I see people's status and I comment to them and say, I'm here if you need me, and help people that way too. That's so funny that you did that too.
Oh my God. Back then it was so when I started changing my Facebook, I used to use my Facebook for the club promotions, right? So my Facebook would have statuses that would say 1 tequila, 2 tequila, 3 tequila, floor. Come to my Tuesday night party, for more tequila.
Right.
And it would have all these quotes and pictures of alcohol and drinking. So when I started floating and it started changing, it had this thought that I was like, I'm going to just put a positive quote on my status. And so that maybe somebody will read it. And that way I get to read it also every morning. And it became my thing. And after a while, like in the beginning, I had a hard time. I was like, I felt inauthentic, because I was like, oh, everybody's going to make fun of me, or like, this is not me. They're going to say I'm trying to be positive. And like my ego was going, and it was like, it took a while. And I forget about this sometimes, where I felt comfortable doing it every day. But then I would get people start writing me messages like, like, oh my God, that positive quote really helped. And it's amazing when you're looking for them and you're reading them. So I started putting these positive quotes, and then I started messaging people. Like, instead of commenting, I started messaging people, PMing them, right? And texting them. And then like people I haven't spoken to, and I'm like, hey, looks like you're going through a rough spot. You want to talk, or whatever the reason was. And it was like God was giving us this opportunity, or the universe, whatever you want to call it, to like give. And I was like, I was excited about it. I was like, I got to get the opportunity. I was doing things for my parents, like my loved ones, and the depth of how I would think, Sunshine, like I would go to these levels of like, okay, if I do this, and I would think 3 steps ahead, then my mom won't have to do this and she'll be happier, without like, and it was like, I was like in this way of like, and if she's happier, everybody she gets in contact will be happier. I was on this mission of like, if I make this person smile, like I was like, how could I smile more? So every person I make smile, they might make someone else smile. And there's a ripple effect, and we're just creating these little ripples, and then the whole world is going to change, So I was like on a mission. And then during that time, for the first year, the flow place wasn't opening, because it was a whole story with that. And I remember I was just like, all right, I'm just here. I'm just going to change as many people's lives as I can, or impact as many people's lives. Because back then, I thought I was making such a big difference, and I was, in the simplest things. And like people forget that. They like come to you, they probably come to you and like, hey, I want to do what you do. And it's like, oh, I want to learn Reiki. I want to do this. I want to be able to create massive change in someone. And it's just like, you do. The easiest way we could do that without learning anything is just go love them. Just love them. And if you could do that, then you're going to make the biggest impact. And loving anyone and everyone, love them as much as you love your pet. Everybody loves their pet. Everybody loves their dog, unconditional love. And it's like,
Yeah.
love them as much as that. But if you're having a hard time loving someone, maybe you got to start with yourself.
Yeah.
Like,
You definitely have
and
to start with
when you
yourself.
love yourself, yeah,
I
and
said,
it's
sorry, I said before, one of my girlfriends messaged me. Um, she's in love. She's in love right now, and she started with herself. And I said, being in love is the most amazing feeling. I mean, just sit back right now, take a breath and feel that feeling that when you were in love, in that first moment of being in love, and then feel that for yourself. Wouldn't that be an amazing feeling to feel like that all the time? And it can happen when you change your habits and your thoughts and just be in the moment. You're in love with you, and then that overflows to everybody else. We have Danielle
it
is
definitely does.
yeah, she's having that purpose. And that's enough if you wish. You can, it's a process, Danielle. It's a process. It like Hardy said, it took him how many years to get to where he is today? It took me 5 years to get to where I am today. So don't be hard on yourself. You'll get there. You'll get there.
Well, it took us a lot longer, actually, right?
Yeah,
We all had to
50
go
years.
through our hardship, right?
Yeah, yeah,
I'm not going to say 42. I'm going to say 28. Because
yeah.
that's my real age.
Yeah.
But it took us. We had to go through these moments every time. Like, whenever I'm going through a difficult moment, where most would consider like a very hard time, I don't look at it as a hard time anymore. I'm able to step out of it, look at it, and
Yeah,
go, wow, what am I here to learn? And how much am I growing? The harder it
yeah,
is, the more stronger I'm becoming.
that's right.
Because when something difficult happens, am I running back to my alcohol? Am I going back to these devices? No, that person's long gone. And if a deep layer of that shows up, that's okay too. It's
Yeah,
here to teach us. Every aspect of everything that we go through is here to show us something. And, I love myself, those couple, like that year or two, like a lot. Then at some point I lost that, or there was another layer I had to get. And then
mm,
last year I really went to a deep place with it when I had a big relationship breakup. There's so much to the journey. And I remember during that, I realized how much I love myself. I was able to look at myself in the mirror. And this is, if you're not sure if you love yourself, and it's one of those things like, I think I love myself. Like, yeah, I love myself, right? Like, so this is one of the clearest ways to know that if you love yourself, to like kind of gauge it, is can you look at yourself in the mirror and go, oh my God, I love you. I love everything about you. I love what you're about. I love everything you're doing. I love you so much. I love, love, love you. And I wouldn't want to be anybody else,
mm,
you know? And if you could look at yourself in the mirror and say that, then you have fallen in love with yourself. And yes, it's not easy every single time. And it's a great exercise. If you don't feel that, it might take 100 times for you to say it, but you'll get there if you keep saying it. But if it took you a little longer, see what's showing up. Ask yourself, why isn't it happening? Why do I not feel this way? What's going on? Right? Like,
yeah.
why do I not feel like I love myself? What part of me do I not love? Is that my 8-year-old self showing up?
Hmm. Yeah, and Danielle, it's we didn't just figure it out. We went to different people, we went to different teachers, we went to, different modalities and tried until we succeeded too. So
So
Get out
much.
there and get out there and go from place to place until you find what you love.
Yeah, so I want to open my heart. I'm trying hard, right? That was one of the first things you said, right?
Yeah.
And you know, listen to your heart. It's a journey to get there, of like really finding what that means for you and finding those teachers. And the biggest thing you could do is gravitate to is the people that you feel are in that space. Because if you surround yourself with people in that space more than people that are not in that state of love, it's going to be a lot easier because you're going to feel it. And what we do is we reflect each other because it's within you, it's just covered up. And
Mhm.
when you shine this beautiful light, you're going to see it's going to show up in your life, and then all of a sudden it's going to remind you of how that feels. And that's like a great step, is find other people living a life of love. Like it could be through their passion or what they're doing, and you'll feel it. You're like, oh my God, that person loves themselves, or that person's in love right now and what they're doing. And surround yourself more and more with people like that. Learn from those people. You'll know when someone's like faking it or they're not. You can't hide what true love is. Like when somebody embodies that, you'll know. And there's
Yeah.
there's different levels to it. Like it's everybody, but you'll feel it. You'll be like, oh my God, that person's. I just want to be around that person, and
Mhm.
do that, and I guarantee you, it'll start rubbing off.
Yeah.
And you'll find more of that. You'll start attracting like so many different teachers and friends in your circles, and you just want to be around that. Even there's that family member in your family, in your extended family, that is that state of love. Like there's someone in your friend circle. There's all these different people out there. There's these teachers. There's someone on YouTube that you might want to follow that emanates love, and really sit there, because there's some people that they speak from the heart, and then there's some people that are speaking from the mind, and see if you could discern that. See if you could start telling the difference of that, like, of that.
Yeah.
So
And try to remove what does not bring you joy, remove all that does not nourish or inspire you, including people. You removed alcohol. I removed that too. I removed meat, just things that do not serve you, do not make you feel good. Get rid of it. Get rid of it. And it's not easy, but one thing at a time,
one thing
right?
at a time, right?
Yeah.
Or three things might fall off, and then one might come back, and it's just a part of the
Yeah.
journey, right? And you
And
become
there's
strong.
a big part of this world where we're taught to be miserable. Unlearn that. Misery loves company. I'm not coming to the pity party anymore. Let's
No more
go to
pity
the
party.
positive party, right?
I mean, we got trained in that way, right? Like my
Yeah.
generation, your generation, like, what do we get trained? So we were supposed to go to school, so we could go to elementary school, so we could go to junior high, we go to high school. So we're going to
To
school to
be
school to school, then
judged
we
and made fun of.
or and then yeah, and follow these niches, and then we go to
Yeah.
high school to go to college, so we could go. Then we get to college, and my generation was like, all right, now you have to go to graduation school or master's school or go to PhD. So you keep going to another school to go in another school to go in debt to go to another school to go to another
Right.
school. So you keep going to these schools, and you're told, okay, you go to school so you can get a good job. So then you go to a good job. So you get a good job, you'll find someone, and you could get married, and then you could get a house, and you could have children, and you could live happily ever after, right? How come happily ever after is always at the end? So I
Right.
made a decision to live my life happily from now on, meaning
Yes.
I'm making every decision now based around my happiness. So if I got two job opportunities coming at me now, I'm going to sit there. One's making a lot more money. Is it giving me? I'm going to weigh each one and go, no, which one makes me happier? This one's going to make me move. A lot of people choose based on, first is my money and this instead, and like all these other reasons. Oh, I could get a better job later. I'm like, no, choose which one's going to make you happy. Well, this one gives me less hours, and that's what makes me happy. This one is like, I really like what I do here, so I'm just going to spend 40, 50 hours a week being happy. Whereas this job, I'm 36 hours, more money, but I'm going to hate it. You know, it's like we have a choice. If we choose to be in a level of happiness, we're going to only attract that in our lives. So every job you choose or any situation, choose happiness. And even if it's a little bit more happier than the one before, you're just climbing the stairway of happiness, and you're going to continue to say, and you'll never go all the way back down, because your life doesn't go in that direction. You choose happiness over everything.
Yeah. And also do it for yourselves. You know, don't worry about what anybody else is thinking. If you're doing it to please somebody else and it's not pleasing to yourself, don't do it. You have to do it for yourself. Do it for your own happiness. Do it for yourself, your love for yourself, you know? Oh, thank you, Laura.
Thank you, Laura. It's amazing, Sunshine, to see what you're doing. And, I really got to hang out with you this week. I just met Sunshine last year in November, somehow online, the universe, right before I went back to Costa Rica. And, I think Michael Zinn, he had her on his podcast, the episode before me or after. And somehow we connected. And I was telling her I was doing these breathwork journeys, and then we somehow set it up at her place. It was the first place I set up after I was doing all these free events. And then I went to Costa Rica. I went back to Costa Rica, which is a whole nother story that, fill everybody in on another time. How I was in Costa Rica during the whole pandemic and I'd left. But that's a whole other world, and lots of stories to that journey and what brought me back here. And I remember meeting you, Sunshine, and you start, as I was saying before, you get attracted to like lovely beings, you feel them right away. And I didn't hardly knew Sunshine, but I connected with her energy, and I knew she was a good person. And, and I felt it, like I felt a good soul there. And then I came back in April, right before I went to Nepal for a few days. And I think I messaged her because then she was like, I just knew to connect with her. And then when I came back this past week, Sunshine, I think you're one of the people I've hung out with the most. And I have a lot of people I've newly met, but I don't really do that with new people right away because I have so many people I love and I've connected in this heart space. And I'm so blessed to like be able to have people like you enter my life, because when you radiate love radiates back to you, and you've done so much amazing things in the short amount of time that I've met you, and it's inspiring. And, everybody that is listening to this or watches this in the future, and they look at me or you and they're like, oh my God, they're so magical. Look at them. I wish I can't be them. I can't be like that. I'm telling you, like, I had nothing. I was at my bottom, and so was she at some point. And all we did was, we learned to loving ourselves, even if we didn't know what that meant, and loving others, and looking at each person as a reflection of ourselves. And if we treated them in that way, like, I always tell people, like, to treat, like, how come every time somebody walks into the room and it's their birthday, everybody that doesn't know them says, hey, happy birthday, and everybody gets so happy and they want to just do nice things for that person? What if we treated every single person in the world like it was their birthday? And then this is the other part. It would be amazing, And imagine, and then the other part, on your birthday, do you not treat yourself that much nicer? Everybody does it. Like, you wake up and you're that happier. What if you woke up every day like it was your birthday? Imagine that. What kind of world would we live in if we just looked at everyone and said, oh my God, it's this person's birthday. Oh my God. And try that for a day. See how long you can last and be like, I'm going to treat every single person today like it's their birthday. And I guarantee you're going to feel amazing.
Yeah.
Treat every single person. Be like, just treat them. You don't have to say happy birthday, but you could go up to them and be like, hey, how are you? Oh my God. And, nice to meet you. Like, just that little energy of love and happiness, like it's their birthday. And you will see how you impact people, and you're going to see how that impacts you.
Yeah. Because you, even strangers, you don't know if it's your birthday, but you're sitting over there and you hear the waiter say it's your birthday. So everyone's like, oh, happy birthday. It's
Everybody starts
amazing.
singing, when they bring out the cake and embarrass you, and and I think most of us, sometimes we do that to our friends on purpose, and I think we should. I
Yeah.
think every single person here right now, every time you go to a restaurant, just say it's someone's birthday, and then everybody will sing, because then you'll get the whole restaurant happy. Because everybody starts singing along.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's not your real birthday according to your license,
Raising the vibration. Yes, Danielle.
That's it. That's what we're doing, sunshine.
Yes, yes. Yeah, choose your happiness is not selfish. It's self-love. It's self-love. And if people are putting you down and saying that you're selfish, that's conditioned love. They don't love you unconditionally. So that is a big red flag right there.
Yeah,
Red flag, right?
someone saying, hey, you don't want to come out for me, it's I wanted to go to this bar, there's this guy that I wanted to see, and I need you to come with me. And you're just like, I don't want to go to bars. I'm tired, I've been working all week, and I just don't want to be around it. And that person's like, well, I need you because I need someone to come with me, and you're not being fair, like you're not being a good friend, and I want you to take a step back before you make that decision, and check in with yourself. A good way to check in is just closing your eyes, or not reacting to them, and just going, okay, am I going to really enjoy going here? Is this what I really want? Is this what I want? Or am I being guilted into coming there? And I'm going to be upset. I'm going to get less sleep, and it's not what I wanted to do. And then I might drink and all this stuff. Really checking in with yourself. And guess what? Some people will leave your life.
Yeah.
They will be out of your life. But when they're gone, and this happened to you, Sunshine, this happened to me. When I started cutting people off, it was, and at some point I did become a little lonely, and I was getting this feeling, but then all of a sudden in that openness, all these new people started coming, and it was in the same vibe. I found them, and it was just your soul family starts showing up, or more things in your life start showing up that really fulfill you in a different way. And you just keep leveling up because of that. And it's not always easy. The journey there, friendships of people you partied with or knew since second grade, but they're not serving your happiness. You guys are just used to, your friendship might be based on, I go out, we go shopping together, we get our hair done, we do this, so, but they want to hang out all the time. Maybe it's well, my happiness comes when I hang out with this person, when we do our nails, and that's it. Because then they start talking about all their depressing stuff, and it doesn't make me happy. Guess what? This is your life. You choose your reality. You're not stuck. You're in charge of this movie. I call it a movie, and we're all players. And once you realize it's a movie, change the direction of it. Make it, choose what makes you feel good. And when you start feeling good, then other things will start happening in your life that will kind of automatically start lining up in that emotion. But it takes work in the beginning to make those decisions, to let the universe know that I'm choosing happiness, I'm choosing myself, I'm choosing love over these other decisions, because you used to not choose those decisions. So got really used to you having things unfold in that way because you kept choosing that path. Now you're ready for a new path. Choose it, be clear with what you want, and make it happen, and be empowered.
You are the one who can make your dreams come true, and they can come true. We're living proof, right?
Yes, you are the dreamer. You just have to realize that you're the one creating your own dreams.
That's right. That's right. Aw, she says, thank you. You are so welcome, love. Reach out anytime. We are here. Yay! So it's an hour. We've been chit-chatting.
I told you we could go all night. We didn't even get to the breakfast journeys or anything else, but next time.
Yeah. If there's anything else you want to say out loud, or any other advice?
Just treat yourself kinder. Don't be so hard on yourself. When things aren't happening, or things are happening to you, just remember they're happening for you. And there's a lesson, and there's always growth in everything. There's always an opportunity to grow, and just keep that in mind. And just remember, I love you. I love you.
I love you.
And I love you.
Yes, I love it.
Hey.
I love it. Woo! Thank you so much, Hardy. I'm going to put you in the back room and I'm going to say goodnight. Oh, good. I love it. I love it. All these beautiful souls. Love it. Love it. All right. I will see you in a moment. Love you.
Love you, sunshine.
Yay! I'm so happy Hardy had graced us with his presence and his knowledge. Reach out to him anytime if you feel connected with him. We love each and every one of you. May we all be happy, healthy, wealthy, and free. Yeah!
This is the moment we've been waiting for. Feel the right in the world of that for sure. Na 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 na. Got to get that feeling.